President has the authority to do this. It was done so in an interagency process that ensured that all the appropriate people were consulted. We went through that with flying colors. I have zero concern that at the end of the day we will be fine. It's just a question of going through the process.
And I get all that, but
okay.
As you pointed out. But if he does not prevail at the Ninth Circuit, will he take this to the
I'm not going to get it. Let's see where it goes first. I think our goal right now is to get to a point we can argue it on the merits. We feel confident, based on how the court has reacted in Massachusetts, that we're going to be good on the merits. Jonathan Swan.
Sure, thanks for the question.
Yeah.
Does President Trump still plan to immediately terminate President Obama's executive amnesties?
With respect to what, DACA and DAPA? As I've said this before, we'll have further updates on that. I understand. Yeah. Go ahead.
But just in the thing, it said immediately terminate.
I understand that, and I've said before, the president will have further updates on both DACA and DAPA very shortly. We've been very clear on immigration, what the president's priorities would be. As you heard Secretary Kelly testify in front of Congress today, there's going to be continued progress on the wall and on immigration as a whole. So we're going to have plenty of time to address this. Right now, he's trying to do it in a very systematic way, in accordance to where we find the biggest problems. And so he's been very clear in the past that those who are in this country that pose a threat to us or with a criminal record are where his priorities are going to be first and foremost, and we're going to move through the rest of folks that are in this country illegally. Sarah.
Thank you, Sean. Back to Iran, the Ayatollah Khomeini said today that Trump has, quote, helped Iran reveal the true face of America. He said Iran doesn't fear Trump, and he encouraged Iranians to march in the street against America later this week. Does the president have a response to those very aggressive comments, and does he plan to take additional action against Iran if its leaders continue to escalate tensions?
I think the president or the Ayatollah is going to realize that there is a new president in office. This president's not going to sit by and let Iran flout its violations or its apparent violations to the joint agreement. But he will continue to take action as he sees fit. The president's also made clear time and time again that he's not going to project what those actions will be, and he will not take anything off the table. But I think Iran is kidding itself if they don't realize that there is a new president in town. John Gizzi.
Thank you, Sean. On Thursday, weather permitting, the president is going to meet with airline executives from throughout the country. Two complaints from airline executives as well as the Pilots Association have been, one, that Norwegian Airlines got a special advantage, a foreign carrier permit from the Obama administration, and also that the airlines of the Emirates, the Arab Emirates, are state subsidized, and both cases are violations of the Blue Skies Act between the U.S. and the EU. Is this something he's going to address, and is he considering upending President Obama's foreign carrier permit?
Well, again, that'll be something that'll be decided when they meet, what they'll talk about. Obviously, the president's going to want to talk about economic growth and job creation, how he's enacting orders to make sure the country's safe. On the case of Norwegian, my understanding, if I'm correct, that there's a deal in which they're having 50% of the crews and the pilots are American-based. They're flying Boeing planes. There's a huge economic interest that America has in that deal right now. I don't want to get ahead of the president on that, but just to be clear, I mean, you're talking about U.S. jobs, both in terms of the people who are serving those planes and the person who's building those planes. That's a very big difference. Zeke.
Hey, Sean, a few minutes ago you said that the president wanted to remind the American people of how prevalent terrorist attacks are and that the earth is a dangerous place. That kind of breaks with the rhetoric we've seen in bipartisan administrations use when it comes to terrorist attacks, encouraging the American people to go about their daily lives. Does this president have a different message to the American people?
No, I think, yeah, his message to the American people is that he is fully committed to doing everything that he can to keep the country safe. And I think that there's a big difference between what you're saying and with the point that he was making yesterday. And I think that what he's getting at is he was making a point as to the exposure that attacks get. And I think that's what he was getting at, is that we see these things and they're becoming too prevalent. And that's why I think he wants to become ever vigilant, to make sure that we don't ever get lax, that we need to be reminded that places and groups like ISIS continue to seek to do us harm, and that it's his job as commander-in-chief to do everything he can to get ahead of the curve and keep this country safe. I think when you look at the poll that came out last week, and I think it was 67% of the American people agreed with his proposition to put further restrictions on people, to make sure that we have countries who are sending people to our country, that they are coming here for peaceful purposes, and that if we can't guarantee those countries have the proper vetting and systems in place when they are outbound to the United States, then we need to do what we can, and he will do what he has to as president to make sure that this country is safe. And that I think the point that he was making was not to put fear in anybody, but to rather reassure them that as President of the United States, he is taking every single step to do what he has to get ahead of the threats, to get ahead of the concerns. So we're not looking in the rearview mirror thinking, what should we have done, what could we have done? That we're preventing lives, whether it's the raid in Yemen, the law that he's enacting, that he's going to do what he can to make sure that this homeland and our people are protected and safe. Mara.
Thank you. I just have 2 questions, one on a tweet and one on healthcare. When the president tweeted, if something happens, blame the judge and the court system, did he mean if a terrorist attack is committed by somebody from these 7 countries, or any terrorist attack should be blamed on the judge and the court system?
Well, I think the point that the tweet is pretty clear, but I think his point is that kind of dovetails what I was just saying to Zeke. He's doing everything he can, and he walks into office. There are 7 countries that the Obama administration has already identified as not having the proper systems in place to guarantee our safety. And I think his immediate reaction is to do what he has to do to make sure that we're not looking back and saying, you know what we should have done? We should have made sure that we had stricter vetting in place for those 7 countries. So he took immediate and decisive action to make sure that this country and our people were protected. That's what he's talking about, is making sure that we don't have a regret that a month from now, 2 months from now, or a year from now, we hadn't done something to protect people. And so he acted as quick and decisively as possible to make sure that we put the systems in place to protect our people. And that, I don't think there's any other way to read that. Yeah, Len.
Question on healthcare. Can I just get my second question?
Of course.
You just said he'll negotiate prices, and that's something he ran on. He ran on negotiating prices for Medicare, drug prices. And I just want you to clarify where he is on that, because when he met with Big Pharma the other day, before the meeting, he said, we have no choice, we have to get prices down. After the meeting, he said he would oppose anything that makes it harder for these companies to bring their drugs to market, including price fixing by Medicare. So is he for Medicare negotiating drug prices or not?
He's for it, yes. He wants to make sure, absolutely.
Okay.
The president's clear. I mean, when you look at the cost of, not just drug costs, the U.S. government has not done, I mean, you look at what, frankly, the easier way to look at this is what other countries have done, negotiating costs to keep those down. As drug prices continue to escalate, that drives up healthcare costs for every American, but particularly there's a huge burden on America's seniors, who are so much more reliant on drug prices. And I think, and in many cases, you have people living on a fixed income. And healthcare costs, rising healthcare costs, and prescription drugs continue to be a burden on their ability to live out their lives in a much more enjoyable manner. And so his commitment is to make sure that he does what he can, and I think rather successfully uses his skills as a businessman to drive him down. Margaret.
Can you clarify 2 things? One,
Sure.
Secretary Kelly, when he was on the Hill today, said that the administration right now is not looking at adding other countries to this temporary travel ban list. Is the White House still giving itself room to add some countries to that list?
Well, I think what his point was is that right now he's not doing it. You have to look at his testimony in context. I think he went through the fact that we're still in this review process, that he is committed to making sure that we look at all other countries. But as of this moment, that there's no immediate desire to add to that. But he is looking at all of the other countries, the procedures that we have with them, the systems we have in place to check them. And so nothing is final until the end of the review period.
But I had a second question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you said still leaving room to do that. Something that the president continues to say as a phrase, and I'm hoping you can define it for us, is that this is about testing who truly loves America and making sure that those enter the country are those who truly love America. How do you quantify that? What is the president thinking of? Is that a specific test? What does that mean?
No, I mean, look, I think the president's, goal is to make sure that people aren't coming here to do us harm, that they're going through the proper extreme vetting in cases where we don't have the information required to make a good judgment on them based on what their country is willing to provide, that we are taking the proper and necessary steps to protect our people. But he doesn't, if someone's coming here to do us harm or to espouse things that would give us a good indication that they're not coming here for the right reasons, then we need to do everything we can to A, vet them, and B, unless we're 100% certain, keep them out of the country.
Background check.
It's a background check, but again, I wouldn't just, it's not. I mean, it is, to the extent that we can, it's going to be extreme vetting is what he's talked about. That it's not going to be just letting someone in on a quick check. If there's any cause for concern, he wants to go to every step possible to make sure that people who are entering this country are doing so because they want to come here for the right reasons and for peaceful reasons. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. On Korea, South Korean knows about Trump is a very good friend of theirs. And what will be the most important part of his policy toward South Korea?
What, please?
What was most important part of Trump's policy toward South Korea?
Most important part of the policy.
Thank you. He had a conversation the other day, and we look forward to filling that conversation. I think obviously the threat of North Korea is the most prominent issue that faces South Korea in our alliance right now. He wants to reassure the South Korean government, the Blue House, that we are going to do what we can to make sure that we stand with South Korea and that we prevent any further hostile actions from North Korea. So I think that the safety of our country, of South Korea, of the region are going to be clearly the greatest focus of this. Yeah.
Question. John Christopher, Talk Media News. When the President submits his budget, is he committed to pushing Congress to approve sufficient funding for all American students to have either an outstanding public school education or the public funding for them to reach an outstanding private school education?
Look, I think the President's talked extensively about education during the primary, that it's whether it's an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, PhD, or vo-technical education, that we've got to give students these days the options they need for the workforce. That a vo-tech education in some cases is what's in the interest of students in terms of their success, and giving them the skills to work on cars or become a computer engineer or whatever. But as we head into as we look towards the future, we've got to make sure that we're preparing our students to have the skill set that they need. And it's also the retraining aspect of that, that as people get older and certain industries start to turn the corner because of technology, that we're allowing people the opportunity for retraining, to give them the skill set that they need to re-enter the workforce and continue to be productive. So I think, as you will see, look, we literally will swear in the Secretary of Education hopefully later this evening, which we will let you all know, probably around the 5 or 6 o'clock hour. But that will be something that he's going to continue to have a conversation with Secretary DeVos about, something that she's made clear. And it's unfortunate that we haven't been able to have this conversation sooner because it was held up for so long. But I think that's something that Secretary DeVos will be speaking a lot about the education funding and skill set and opportunities that we give not just our children, but people older in life who are looking to get back into the workforce through another avenue.
How about the K through 12? How about the youngsters?
Right. I think we'll have plenty of time to discuss the President's budget as we get closer, as he sort of develops that. Today we're excited that Secretary DeVos will get sworn in and we can begin to formulate that. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great one. Take care.
All right, so there it is, about a half-an-hour briefing. Sean Spicer, the White House press secretary, answering lots of questions. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. We once again want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and around the world.